Souls-like games aren't for everyone. These games don't care how good you think you are. They test your patience, your attention, and even your stubbornness. But those who persist and learn from every death end up discovering experiences that no other genre can offer. And today I've picked 15 of the best ones you need to play. Some come from major franchises, others are unexpected surprises, but they all have one thing in common. They'll make you suffer and then smile after your victory. So, without wasting any time, let's get started. When a Souls-like inspired by Pinocchio was announced, a lot of people thought it would just be another weird idea that wouldn't go anywhere. But Lies of P ended up being one of the biggest surprises in the genre in recent years. The combat is fast, precise, and demands your attention at all times. The weapon system also gives you the freedom to experiment. You can combine different blades and handles to create your own fighting styles, which makes each build feel more personal. The setting also deserves to be highlighted. The decaying industrial-style city feels like a twisted fairy tale with grotesque creatures that look like they came straight out of a nightmare. The narrative isn't just in the background. There are choices, lies, and secrets that influence the course of the story, adding even more weight to the journey. Lies of P isn't just a Souls-like with Pinocchio. It's proof that it's still possible to innovate within the formula and, on top of that, deliver one of the most incredible games in the genre. When EA announced they would make a single-player Star Wars game, a lot of people thought it would just be another generic title. But Jedi Fallen Order was a big surprise by mixing exploration, combat, and that Souls-like touch. It's not as hard as Dark Souls or Sekiro, but the way the game handles parrying and resource management makes every fight against stormtroopers more tense than it seems. The map also has that classic style of shortcuts and blocked areas that only open up later. It's something that really resembles From Software's design. What really hooks you is the feeling of a journey. The battles demand your attention, with no room to just mash buttons mindlessly. And exploration rewards those who insist on searching every corner of the planets. There are hidden secrets, optional areas, and unexpected encounters that make the adventure feel more alive. Even though it's not the most brutal on the list, it's one of the games that best balances challenge with accessibility, delivering that sense of accomplishment that defines the genre. If you already thought the Souls games were tough, Nioh 2 comes along to prove that there's always room to suffer a little more. The game demands quick reflexes, mastery of mechanics, and a good dose of patience. The stance system, high, mid, and low, completely changes the speed and impact of your attacks. And learning to switch between them in the middle of a fight is essential for survival. This turns every battle into a true test of skill, where even the smallest mistake can be fatal. On top of that, the game doesn't hold back on content. An absurd variety of enemies, memorable bosses, and a quantity of loot that even rivals Diablo, but without sacrificing the weight of combat. For those who can't handle the pressure alone, there's also a co-op mode, which helps share the pain or just adds to the chaos. Nioh 2 is one of those games that pushes players to their limits and only truly rewards those who persist until they've mastered its mechanics. And that's exactly why it's so addictive. The 4 Valvalon takes the legend of King Arthur and turns it into a dark nightmare. It's a first-person RPG inspired by a board game. And since 2023, it's been in early access, growing slowly and drawing attention for betting on a heavy, tension-filled atmosphere. Combat is stamina-based, with heavy weapons and a slow pace, without any cinematic flair. Every missed strike comes at a high cost. The atmosphere is one of constant oppression, as if the world is rotting around you. What sets it apart is the mix of elements. The map is open, full of factions and non-linear quests. Meanwhile, the narrative throws the player into a cursed Britain, where nothing resembles the heroic idea from knightly tales. Survival, exploration, and choices are all part of a package that leaves no room for those seeking comfort. It's one of those games that seems to want to knock you down at every turn, and precisely because of that, it manages to convey a rare weight, even within the Souls-like genre. Black Mayfield Kong was announced and immediately caught attention as a next-generation Souls-like. Not just because of its stunning visuals, but also for the way it brings Chinese mythology to the heart of the experience. You control the legendary Monkey King, facing gigantic enemies, spirits, and gods in battles that feel like martial arts choreographies mixed with the genre's signature brutality. The pace of the battles is insane, and every boss becomes a spectacle, both in terms of difficulty and design. Beyond the combat, what truly impresses is the atmosphere. Surreal, almost iconic settings give you the feeling of traversing an ancient tale full of dangers and wonders at the same time. It's a game that demands repetition and learning like any Souls-like, but the scale and visual richness make every defeat and every victory feel like part of a legend. Wukong promises not only to be a great challenge, but also one of the most memorable experiences of recent years. Called by many an anime Souls, combat still demands dodging, stamina management, and a lot of patience against bosses. But the game also features heavy customization and a post-apocalyptic aesthetic full of the typical exaggerations of anime. The blood code system lets you switch classes at any time, making room for crazy builds and style changes even during fights. Another thing that sets it apart is the presence of AI-controlled companions who are far from just decorative. How many times do they really save your skin when things get tough? This thoughtfully integrated design choice adds a crucial and extra layer of accessibility, making the game more approachable for those who aren't as experienced or familiar with the often challenging and demanding nature of traditional Souls-like games, all without sacrificing the inherent weight, impact, and strategic depth of the combat system. Although it doesn't possess the same unparalleled level of meticulous polish, intricate environmental design, or seamless technical execution that is characteristic of a flagship From Software game, Code Vein nevertheless manages to stand out remarkably thanks to its truly unique and distinct identity, which is deeply rooted in its compelling narrative, striking art style, and the significant level of freedom and customization it generously gives to the player in terms of character building, combat approach, and exploration. The first Lords of the Fallen had good ideas, but ended up being remembered for its problematic execution. The reboot, on the other hand, came to change that story, delivering a much more refined and ambitious Souls-like. The combat is heavy, focused on stamina, and on brutal bosses that never let up. In a world overrun by dark fortresses and horrors that seem straight out of a macabre nightmare. The big differentiator is the Umbral King system, a parallel dimension you can access to find hidden paths or even escape death. This creates an interesting difference because every area seems to hide something more than what you see. Visually, it's impressive. Grandiose environments, detailed enemies, and an atmosphere that fits the concept perfectly. While there are still a few minor moments and isolated instances where the overall presentation and execution might be perceived as lacking a final layer of polish, perhaps in certain visual elements, occasional animation transitions, or specific user interface refinements here and there, it is undeniably and unequivocally a truly monumental and substantial evolution when directly compared to its original predecessor. This remarkable transformation positions it as a genuinely compelling and highly engaging Souls-like experience that unequivocally merits the dedicated time, thorough exploration, and profound attention of both long-standing fans of the genre and newcomers alike. This one is, at the very least, intriguing. A Final Fantasy spin-off that decided to mix Souls-like elements with action and a completely insane narrative. The game became a meme because of the protagonist's obsession with killing chaos. But those who get past the first impression will find a surprisingly deep combat system. The standout feature is the job system, which lets you switch classes during battles, allowing for creative combinations and more dynamic fights. Although it's more accessible than traditional Souls games, you can't really call it easy. The bosses demand your attention, and mastering the mechanics makes all the difference. The tone can be chaotic and even a bit bizarre, but this mix of involuntary humor with solid combat ended up creating a unique experience. In the end, Stranger of Paradise may not have the seriousness of other games in the genre, but it delivers a fun and challenging journey in its own way. Here you control Kazan, a legendary warrior marked by fury and misfortune, facing enemies with whips in settings of decay. The combat is heavy, with blows and a pace that leaves no room for error, and it's already being pointed out as one of the most difficult Souls-likes coming in 2025. Difficulty is a central part of the game's identity. Every regular enemy feels like a mini-boss, and the real bosses require precise pattern reading and mastery of timing to survive. Add to that the oppressive atmosphere of the narrative, where Kazan fights against an inevitable fate. And you have a game that promises to test not only your reflexes but also your mental endurance. With the aim of becoming a new benchmark in the genre, Kazan arrives offering not only extreme challenge, but also its own unique identity within the Soulslike category. Ashen takes the Soulslike formula and strips it down to the essentials, delivering a more minimalist and atmospheric experience. Instead of hyper-realistic graphics or battles full of particle effects, the game bets on a stylized, almost hand-painted art direction and a silent journey through a strange and melancholic world. Combat remains slow-paced and stamina-based, requiring patience and reading your enemies. But here the focus is less on spectacle and more on the feeling of isolation. The most interesting detail lies in the companion system. Many times you walk through the world alongside a partner who could be either an NPC or another real player. And the game hardly ever tells you which is which. This ambiguity creates unexpected moments of cooperation, where the line between artificial intelligence and human presence becomes blurred. Ashen doesn't try to compete with the grandeur of other games in the genre, but instead offers a different experience for those who enjoy exploring mysterious worlds and value the weight of small discoveries. This is where it all began. Demon's Souls is the game that gave birth to the genre, and the PS5 remake managed to do justice to the classic without losing its essence. Visually, it's stunning. Environments have been remade with incredible attention to detail, bosses are more terrifying than ever, and the atmosphere immediately showcases the power of the new generation. But behind the modern visuals, the heart of the game remains the same. Slow, methodical, and unforgiving to anyone who underestimates each encounter. The level design is closed and segmented, quite different from the interconnectedness of Dark Souls. But that gives it its own unique charm. It's as if each area is an isolated challenge, just waiting to take you down. Many systems seem outdated compared to more recent games. But that's exactly where its value lies. Experiencing Demon's Souls is like revisiting the roots of the genre and realizing how many ideas were born here. It's a revamped classic that shows how the brutality and strangeness of this world still have an impact even so many years later. Among all From Software's games, Sekiro is the one that strays the most from the traditional Souls-like formula. And maybe that's exactly why it left such a mark on so many people. Here, there's no stamina bar, no varied builds or shields to hide behind. The focus is entirely on combat, hand-to-hand with a parry system that demands pinpoint precision and turns every encounter into an intense duel. A mistake means a quick death. But getting the timing of your defenses and counterattacks right is one of the most rewarding feelings the genre has ever delivered. The setting immerses you in Sengoku period Japan, blending historical elements with dark fantasy, ninjas, and creatures. The story is more straightforward than usual for From, but no less impactful. You take on the role of the wolf on a journey of honor, revenge, and sacrifice. It's a game that doesn't forgive. And precisely because of that, it creates memorable moments, whether it's facing off against a boss that seemed impossible or finally mastering the sword dance that defines the experience. Sekiro is pure intensity, with no room for hesitation. While Dark Souls demands caution, Bloodborne forces you to play aggressively. There's no shield to hide behind. Here, the rule is to push forward, counterattack, and keep up the pressure at all times. This faster pace, combined with weapons that change form mid-combat, creates unpredictable battles. Every encounter is a mix of dread and adrenaline, where you always feel just one step away from victory or destruction. The world itself is another spectacle, a ruined Gothic city that gradually reveals its true nature as a cosmic nightmare. The atmosphere of decay, the monsters, and the fragmented narrative make every detail feel like part of something greater and more terrifying. More than just a difficult game, Bloodborne is a unique experience where horror and urgency merge. It's no wonder that to this day, fans are clamoring for a remastered version or a sequel. The profound and lasting impact it created was truly remarkable, leaving an indelible mark that has proven exceptionally challenging, if not nearly impossible, for others to successfully replicate or even come close to achieving. This unique and significant impression stands as a testament to its unparalleled influence, setting a standard that very few, if any, have ever managed to equal or surpass in its distinctiveness and enduring legacy. It established a benchmark of excellence and originality that remains largely unmatched, demonstrating a singular quality that has defied all attempts at imitation or duplication by subsequent endeavors. By the time Dark Souls 3 arrived, many people already felt that the formula was worn out. But in practice, the game is one of the sharpest versions of the style created by From Software. The combat is faster than the first, more focused than the second, and the environments maintain that interconnected design that makes you get lost and find your way again in clever ways. The feeling is that of a farewell journey, as if the game knew it was closing an important chapter in the franchise. The bosses are among the best ever made by From, especially in the expansions. Fights like Gale's or the Twin Princes have become benchmarks for intensity and scale. In addition, the game is filled with references and echoes from previous titles, creating an end-of-an-era atmosphere for those who have followed since the beginning. Dark Souls 3 may not have had the same revolutionary impact as the first, but it delivers a mature, refined, and epic experience. Elden Ring is the pinnacle of everything From Software has built over the years. The foundation remains the same: punishing combat, dangerous exploration, and that constant feeling that any misstep could be your last. But now, all of this takes place in a gigantic open world, full of secrets, unexpected enemies, and bosses that seem to be lurking around every corner. The freedom is immense, but without losing its essence. Every area holds a surprise, whether it's a hidden dungeon, an enigmatic quest, or a bizarre creature that's going to destroy you on your first try. The most impressive thing is how the game manages to balance scale with detail. You can spend hours just exploring a smaller region and still feel like you haven't seen everything. The variety of builds, weapons, and spells allows for completely different experiences with each playthrough. Elden Ring isn't just the biggest Souls-like to date. It's one of those games that define an entire generation, taking the genre to a level few ever imagined possible. So, which of these games has almost made you break your controller, and which one is still on your backlog? If you enjoyed the video and like talking about games, don't forget to leave a like and some hype, because that really helps us out. If you haven't subscribed yet, take the opportunity and become a prospector right now. As always, thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.